Columbia Pictures presents
I may be having a problem.
Bill Murray
I'm reliving the same day over and over.
in a story about a weatherman who's living life like there's no tomorrow.
Don't drive angry.
Because there isn't.
I am an immortal. I have been stabbed, shot, frozen, electrocuted.
You're God.
I'm a god. I'm not the god.
Groundhog Day, rated PG, at theaters Friday.
In a world where podcasts reign supreme, two friends dare to ask, do you even movie? Hosted by filmmaker Henrique Couto and movie aficionado David D. Neuer. Spoiler alert.
You know what my favorite books was when I was a kid?
What's that? Dramatic cigar.
Listen, I deserve this. I earned
Oh,
this
no,
cigar.
you absolutely do. I'm not arguing that.
One of my favorite books was a little indie hit called The Bible. No, called Alexander's Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day.
Yep.
Wow, you did not fully remember that, did you? You almost remembered it. Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day.
That's the title?
Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day.
I know the No Good, Very Bad Days part, yeah.
Yeah, you know why I remember that?
Why is
Because there
that?
was a song in the cartoon.
I didn't even know there was a cartoon. I remember the live action Disney movie
I had
that
a
came out.
terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day.
Well, that just triggered something.
Oh, hey, you are hard.
No, I'm pretty sure we had that. I think we watched that when I was like very, very young.
But I loved the Disney. Are you
was
talking
good.
about the one with Steve Carell,
yeah,
right?
Yeah,
That was excellent.
that was good.
No, I really
very
enjoyed it. But no, David. So I have been revamping our studio, as people may or may not notice. This
Possible.
is the only time I'm going to reference that fact.
It's not a fact.
I meant it.
Yeah.
I was going to not mention it at all, but
Yeah.
then I realized that there's no setup to what fucking happened.
I mean,
today.
that's fair.
But I, in all of my infinite wisdom, and it is infinite,
Mhm.
I needed a few things to get the space right.
Yeah.
And occasionally you'll find yourself feeling like an elder millennial like me when you go to order it on Amazon or whatever, and they're like, we can't get it to you till after 6 the next day. And I'm like, well, we record after 6.
Yeah.
Barely. So then I'd be like, okay, I guess I'll schlepp it to Walmart. So I order a desk chair from Walmart, nice, cheap. I needed a smaller one for me to sit on because mine was taking up too much space. I go to Walmart this morning at about 11 because I was like, hey, man, all I got to do today is record Weekly Spooky. I got to go to Walmart and I got to go to Guitar Center and pick up a mic arm.
Okay.
Because going to Guitar Center costs an extra $10, but I could have it right now.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I get to Walmart. I check in on the app. It's a pickup order. I sit there and 10 minutes goes by.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, all right, I'll try calling the number instead of just using the app.
Yeah.
It's
Didn't
busy.
work, did it?
It's busy. So, and I know these are first world problems, but it piles up.
Yeah.
So I wait another 5 minutes. Nothing. I use the app's help thing. No help. So then I call again. And finally I get somebody after I've been sitting for almost a half a fucking hour.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Trying to not, I've never waited more than 6 or 7 minutes, except at Christmas time.
That's fair.
The guy's super nice, but he's like, where are you? And I was like, well, I'm in a silver car and I'm in parking spot 14. And he's like, all we got from the app was that you were here and it didn't give us any info about where you were.
God, that'd be
so
annoying.
we couldn't find you. We didn't know if it was like a false reading or whatever. So they bring it to me right away. But at that point, I'm like, God damn it. A series of errands that should have taken 40 minutes, including getting lunch, has already taken 30 minutes. So now I go all the way to Guitar Center. I get there, and the guy behind the counter is on the phone with a customer. For over 10 minutes, I had to stand there while other associates walked right by.
That's annoying.
And I'm not like, oh, why don't they do better? But
Yeah.
I was just kind of like, nobody even asks, like, is there any way I could help you?
Yeah.
Because actually there was a guy ahead of me in line who just left after 6 minutes or 7 minutes. He just got up and left. So I get the damn thing. The box is all busted up. It looks like they'd opened it, but I let that go because it seemed to be in whatever. Guitar Center, it's like being mad at your aunt on chemotherapy. Like, what do you want?
Yeah.
So now I'm like, I am tired. I'm annoyed. I've spent an hour. I've lost so much time I really needed on this project.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm like, I am going to get some McDonald's. So I go to order it with the McDonald's app to save some money.
Yeah.
Send it to the wrong restaurant. So I was like, fuck. So I cancel it, send it to the restaurant I'm going to. It won't load. They're just like, there's a problem. We can't send your order to the restaurant. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, just call into the speaker. But I wanted my meal to be $4. I had coupons they don't take if you don't use the app.
Fair.
So I send it and I go, okay, I'll go to the one on Stroop.
Yeah.
I get there. It won't let me check in. It's the other one on Stroop. So I sent it to the wrong restaurant.
Yeah, that would be tough and annoying.
And this is at this point, I'm not saying, wow, the technology is bad or wow, McDonald's is bad. No. At this point, I'm saying, wow, I'm spiraling.
Mm-hmm.
I am failing harder and harder by the second, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hit record on the main one, but it's okay because we got a backup.
Yeah.
I'm learning. I'm a learning computer. So anyway, then I get home and get to enjoy a nice, relaxing day of being an hour and a half behind on everything I do.
Everything at that point.
When I ordered a burrito earlier, I was shocked they forgot to put razor blades in it. So anyway, hello, my friends, and welcome back to Do You Even Movie.
If they're still around now.
With that very low, who cares? Fuck them. They ain't paying me nothing.
That's fair.
They ain't paying me jack or shit.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm, of course, your host, Henrique Couto, here with my good buddy and co-host, Double D, David Denoyer.
Greetings.
And we are going to be talking about a classic.
Classic.
Worth a revisit.
I see what you did there.
But before we get to that, Dave and I
yes,
have been going to the movies a
bit. We
bit.
have indeed.
And we saw on opening night, or preview night,
yeah,
we saw Flight Risk, Mel Gibson's newest action thriller, starring Mark Wahlberg, Topher Grace, and
Michelle Dockery.
Thank you. Yep. Michelle Dockery, you said?
Yeah, Michelle Dockery.
And she was great in it.
Oh, yeah.
So we saw that. I enjoyed the hell out of it.
Same.
Mark Wahlberg scared the shit out of me.
Same.
It's been blowing my mind because people have been saying stuff like, wow, Wahlberg was really hamming it up and all this stuff. And I'm like, well, first of all, Wahlberg is not known for his subtlety anyway.
Never was.
I don't know if I've seen him since The Fear.
Yeah, Fear, not The Fear.
Oh, sorry, Fear.
The Fear is a different movie.
It would have been better if he'd been in it. But I hadn't seen him be that scary since Fear.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that.
And that's a whole other kind of scary because he was like a teeny bopper when he did Fear. So I thought he was very scary. I thought the tension of them being in the airplane the entire time
basically
was really well done. I was expecting them to be in the plane like a third of the movie in reality because it's hard to write tension that tight.
Yeah.
But no, they were on the plane.
The entire time almost.
Like the entire movie. They were I think 10 minutes at the beginning and 10 minutes at the end they weren't.
Yeah.
Maybe even 5
Honestly,
minutes.
5 each probably. Yeah, 10 altogether.
I enjoyed it, but the thing that blew my mind was how much Mark Wahlberg made me nervous.
Yeah.
By just staring at them. To the point where I made a meme with you where I'd be like, you're good, right? And I'd send you a picture of Wahlberg all smiles. And I'd like, you're sure. And I'd send you the one where he's like looking at them wanting to eat their bones.
For those who aren't aware, the movie is about Air Marshal accompanying a fugitive to a trial as they cross the Alaskan wilderness. Tensions soar and trust is tested as not everyone on board is who they seem.
Well, that's one way to put it.
I would say so.
Another way to put it is Exactly that. That's what the movie is. Yes, yes. But I really enjoyed it. But what were your thoughts?
I really liked it. As somebody who has been a avid That 70s Show fan for a long time, but also currently doing a rewatch of the entire series.
Okay, that's why
I love seeing Topher Grace doing a little bit more, because I feel like he's done a couple like Netflix things over the last couple of years, but I haven't really seen him much that I can recall.
This is definitely a bigger role for him than he's been taking lately. He's more of like a supporting.
There's a really good movie that he did. I want to say it would have been late 2010s or early 2010s or late 2000s, called The Double, which is him and Richard Gere.
That sounds cool. Has
to do with a like double agent or whatnot.
Yeah.
Really, really good flick. Cannot recommend that enough. And he's really good in it.
Well, and he's a good actor.
Yeah, no, absolutely is.
It came from the world of sitcoms, so it's easy to kind of pigeonhole him or be like, oh, he's not that great. But
well, a lot of people forget he was in Traffic. Like that was one of his like first big breakouts.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
But no, I think Flight Risk is an absolute blast. 90-minute runtime, like basically on the nose. I think it was like 91 minutes, if I'm not mistaken.
Something like that.
Yeah, 91 minutes on the nose. Had a great time with it. It really just keeps the tension going the entire time, and you may think you know where it's going, and then something else happens, and you're like, oh shit, no, we're on this route now.
No, sir. No, sir.
But yeah, I would absolutely give Flight Risk a high recommend on that one.
I dug it.
Yeah.
And then we just got back.
Yes, we did.
From seeing the new Steven Soderbergh movie.
We did.
Which makes us sound very fancy. But it's a little film called Presence.
And there was no presence at all, not even under a tree.
I mean, the villain was trying to give a gift.
Oh, God.
But what? You always get mad when I point out the reality.
Presence description says, a family becomes convinced they are not alone after moving into their new home in the suburbs. I want to say, first off, it's not a horror film.
What?
Nah.
I think it actually is a horror film.
You think it is?
Yeah.
I feel like it's more of a family drama with supernatural elements.
I think that's almost every horror film with a family in it.
I don't know about that.
I mean, that's basically Amityville Horror.
But horror's in the title, so there's no horror.
Oh, so that just makes it. That cancels it out. Makes its own gravy.
But no, I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed Presence. Was very moved by the ending too. Honestly,
it was well thought out.
Yeah,
and I went in totally blind, as did you.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes me want to keep our audience blind.
Yeah, I don't want to say too much.
But it is a supernatural movie. It is about a type of like a spirit or haunting. And they take a really interesting direction with it. It's a little cheesy and hokey here and there.
Moments, yeah.
But I don't have any complaints about it. I thought it turned out it was really fun. And I had a great time with it.
Shout out one of the main actors in it, Chris Sullivan, who plays the father in the film. I was won over with his performance.
Oh, I felt awful for him.
Yeah.
He was the most reasonable person in that entire house. When somebody would do something so dickish you couldn't believe it, he's the one who would be like, hey, you don't need to talk like that.
Yeah.
And it'd be like, oh, I'm used to the dads in those movies just beating you.
That is one thing I will say. It really used the word fuck a lot.
Well, every scene is one long take.
Yeah.
So you're going to get a lot of
improv.
Of fuck improv.
Yeah.
Which is basically, it's like, if you don't want to say or say fuck.
I just realized something. I wonder if he was commenting on it with this whole thing. If it's not even enhancing now.
Oh, yeah, there's a whole part where he's judging his son's vocabulary because he's saying fuck a bunch.
I wonder if that was actually indirect to that.
I mean, it could be.
Yeah.
He could have been referencing that.
But no, Presence and Flight Risk, I cannot recommend either enough. Like I think they're a great time for the theater, especially.
Yeah,
Flight Risk without a doubt. I mean, Presence, you're going to get a lot of you're going to get way more out of it seeing it in theaters, I think, than you would at home from the sound design and the overall shot and everything.
Oh yeah, well it's pulse pounding.
Yeah.
Presence though had a lot of moments I think were really strong.
Yeah.
If you were seeing it in the theater, I mean, the theater is a better experience for
all the way around
any film.
Yeah.
Not that there wasn't a lot of value to seeing Evil Dead by myself in my bedroom on VHS on a 28-inch square TV, but.
What is the like most monumental movie that you can remember watching on a small screen, just out of curiosity?
Monumental.
Like one that is either like still with you to this day, but like the first time you saw it was on like a super small screen. Everything.
I mean, like Terminator 2.
Yeah,
I mean, I lived in a world where screens were small, bro.
I mean, I literally watched Repo the Genetic Opera, Boondock Saints, and what the hell was the other one? There's another big movie in there that I watched on my iPod for the first time ever. Like, those were how I saw those.
Just as David Lynch
That's what I
intended.
said.
Yeah, he wanted you to watch it on the Shrek TV.
Yep. Oh, man, there were days at the radio station when I was doing board opping, which is basically just controlling the board when they were doing sporting events. So it was basically listening to them come back for their breaks and go out for their breaks and whatnot, that I would just have my phone propped up in the window and just be watching stuff. Like, that's how I watched, do you remember that movie Wormwood, The Road of Blood or whatever it was? Yeah. I watched that on my phone for the first time on Netflix.
I used to listen to gangster rap while I filmed the police memorial.
I remember you told me that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, I can't believe I was fired from that job eventually.
Crazy.
A year and a half later.
Yeah.
But still a good answer. So, but yeah, that all being said, tonight's film is 1993's Groundhog Day.
Yes, sir.
Directed by Harold Ramis.
That is correct.
Who many may know as which
Egon.
one was Egon?
Yeah.
From
you called him Venkman last time.
Venkman. Well, you know what? I had a 1 in 4 shot.
You did.
Okay. I chose the nerdy names first. At least I didn't go, you may know him as Ernie Hudson. Just the wrong actor's name and doesn't
You
look
may know him
like
as Gozer the Gozerian.
You may know him as the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Kaiser Soze.
You may know him as former President Barack Hussein Obama. But no, this is a movie. You want to talk about a movie that had a impact on television.
Mm-hmm.
Groundhog Day.
Big time.
Groundhog Day kind of jumped on the kind of wake of A Christmas Story being 24 hours.
Yeah.
I can't remember. It was TNT or TBS. One of those, I believe, did the Groundhog Day marathon.
TBS, yeah.
Because they would do on Groundhog Day, Groundhog Day all day, which makes perfect sense. So I guarantee that I first saw Groundhog Day at home. My mother's always been a big Bill Murray fan.
Yeah.
So I'm sure she probably either rented it or we watched it on cable. But I remember liking it a lot. And it was one of the earliest movies that made me cry.
Mm-hmm. I can see that.
What's that supposed to mean, pal?
I know what gets you sometimes.
Oh yeah?
I actually came to this movie a decade late, by the way. I came to it in my 20s.
Great dishonor.
Well, my first distinct memory of Groundhog's Day, I cannot remember the character's name, but what was the rabbi on SNL that would come on to the Weekend Update?
Was he an actual rabbi?
He was a character. He was a character. He's also in Casper. He's the guy that gets his head turned around. Father
you're not talking about Guido Sarducci, are you?
Yeah. Guido Sarducci. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he was a character, but he was actually Guido Sarducci. He wasn't like a known
not
comedian
an actor. Yeah.
Guido Sarducci.
Yeah, he did
I don't think he was a rabbi. I think he was a priest.
He did a bit on Weekend Update on an SNL that my parents had taped where he talked about Groundhog's Day. And that was like my first introduction to it was him doing that bit. And then I asked my parents about it, and they were never big fans of Groundhog Day. Like I don't know if they just never really saw it or if it just didn't hit with them. I have no idea. So it wasn't until 2013, 2012, I'm in college, and I'm in my first screenwriting class. I had a really great teacher, and he decided that one of the lessons was going to be basically breaking down the first 10 to 15 minutes of a movie, being critical for storytelling.
Okay.
So he showed us the beginning of High Noon, the beginning of The Magnificent Seven, something else that I can't recall, in Groundhog Day. And this is the first time I'm actually seeing Groundhog Day, like the intro with him and everything, and them going to Punxsutawney and like the initial wake up and everything. And I remember I immediately left class when class was done and went and bought a copy of Groundhog Day because I wanted to see it.
Oh, yeah.
And then from that point on, basically every February 2nd, I will watch Groundhog Day.
That late?
I was at least in my 20s, I want to say.
I mean, I would hope.
I was 20. Yeah, no, I had to be 2021. And I mean, it was honestly a moment that like I just distinctly remember because I was just like, why the fuck did I wait so long to see this movie?
Because you're a bad person.
It moved me so much.
No, it is. And by the way, I was somewhat wrong. Father Guido Sarducci, obviously character, but was portrayed by, and I guess could still be because he's still with us, was portrayed by Don Novello.
That's right. Yeah, Don Novello.
But it was a character he portrayed on many shows.
Yeah.
Married with Children, Blossom, It's Gary Shandling's show, Unhappily Happily Ever After, Square Pegs. He often he appeared in many things in character.
Yeah, I mean, he literally gets his head turned around in Casper and vomited on.
Yeah, the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour, Saturday Night Live, of course. He did a bunch of articles or radio commercials for High Times magazine.
Oh my God!
So, and he was very, very funny. I'm paraphrasing, but I think my favorite Father Guido Sarducci was he the one who did the whole like every person, every savior of our people, Jesus Christ crucified, Martin Luther King shot dead, and I myself am not feeling very well.
I think that was him.
Yeah,
I think that
very,
was him.
very funny.
I just remember even Casper. Oh, it's a piece of cake, piece of crumb cake.
I do remember that.
Yeah.
Yep. Piece of crumb cake.
Oh God.
So I guess we should talk about the film
Pertinent
for realsies. Obviously, it stars the irreplaceable Bill Murray.
Yes, that is correct.
Although we'll see how Bill Murray AI does once he's gone.
So Groundhog Day is 1 hour and 41 minutes, rated PG for some thematic elements. The IMDb synopsis says a narcissistic, self-centered weatherman finds himself in a time loop on Groundhog Day.
I mean, that's pretty solid.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty solid.
My synopsis, TV weatherman Phil Connors travels to Punxsutawney to cover Groundhog Day festivities, only to get stuck in a time loop, causing him to experience the same day every day.
I gotta be honest. I like there's more on that one.
That's fair.
I think the narcissistic part is actually really important.
It's key. No, it's absolutely key.
And Bill Murray is really good at playing unlikable people who become likable.
Yeah. No, he absolutely
That's one of his like bread and butter.
I mean, I feel like given that, you know, they're out of the season with Scrooge, but like if you watch Scrooge and Groundhog's Day back to back, you're going to cry multiple times when he has his wrap-ups at the end, I would say. Especially with Scrooged.
Yeah. Oh, they're great.
Taglines include, what would you do if you were stuck in the same day over and over? Anything you want and everything your heart desires.
That makes it sound too fun.
He's having the worst day of his life over and over.
Okay. All right. That one I like.
He's having the day of his life over and over again.
I'm starting to see a pattern in the marketing here.
So I will unfortunately report that at this time of this recording, Groundhog Day is currently available to only rent or buy through Prime or Fandango. It is not
It's
streaming.
not on Peacock anymore?
I didn't see it, at least. If it is, I missed it, but it wasn't listed on IMDb.
Huh. Yeah, I thought it was on Peacock.
If it's on Peacock, then I am wrong and a piece of shit.
Well, I mean, now we're cooking. I'll check.
Okay.
You keep doing your little dance.
Director and writer on the film, Harold Ramis, who you may remember several weeks back from our episode of The Ice Harvest. Just to give you a highlight of his resume for director, he does Caddyshack in 1980, National Lampoon's Vacation 83, Club Paradise in 86, Groundhog Day in 93, Stuart Saves His Family in 95, Multiplicity, Analyze This, Bedazzled, Analyze That, and The Ice Harvest in 2005. He was also the writer on Lemmings in 73, Animal House, Caddyshack, Stripes, Ghostbusters, Back to School, Groundhog Day. And as I reported on that Ice Harvest episode as well, he did unfortunately pass February 24th of 2014 from an autoimmune inflammatory vasculitis. He was 69 at the time.
Nice, but also phenomenal filmmaker, phenomenal storyteller. It is not on Peacock.
Damn.
That's on me.
Okay.
I saw Philo, and it's a P.
Yeah, that's fair.
In passing. No, yeah, it's not currently readily available.
But it very well could be, because as we're recording this, we're not into the month yet, so they might change it over.
You never know. The studio executives might be like, I'm tired of drinking this child's blood. Is it almost Groundhog Day?
Writer on the film is Danny Rubin. God damn you.
You're welcome.
93 is Groundhog Day, then Hear No Evil in 93 as well, So Fucking What, or SFW in 94, Stork Day in 2004, Our Own Devices in 2018.
Nice.
Yeah. You ever see SFW?
No.
It's Steven Dorff, and I want to say...
I love his videos on golf.
Every freaking time. I think it's him and Reese Witherspoon, I want to say.
Huh.
And it's basically they're criminals that take a group hostage, but there's a camera or a TV crew in the mix, and they basically are broadcast for X amount of time and become celebrities going off of their theme of SFW, which is So Fucking What.
That sounds really familiar.
It was a cable player, especially like Showtime.
Well, with a title like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cinematographer on the film is John Bailey. He gets his start as a second unit or a second unit DP in Two-Lane Blacktop in 71, Posse in 75, Hollywood Boulevard in 76,
All right.
Welcome to LA in 76, The Late Show in 77, Days of Heaven, Cursed in 2005.
Now
Yes,
we're talking.
Wes Craven's Cursed. He doesn't become a director of photography until 1972's Premonition, followed by The Mafu Cage, followed by Boulevard Nights in 79, American Gigolo in 1980, City of Fear in 1980, Ordinary People in 1980, Honky Tonk Freeway, Continental Divide, Cat People, Without a Trace, The Big Chill in 83.
Now, the soundtrack that everybody loves.
I have both Volume 1 and Volume 2.
We know.
On vinyl and cassette.
We know.
Pope of Greenwich Village in 84, Silverado in 85, Crossroads in 86, Brighton Beach Memories 86, Light of Day, Tough Guys Don't Dance in 87, which I think may be coming to this show after watching it.
Okay, I've not seen Tough Guys
I know
Don't
you
Dance.
haven't. Vibes in 88.
Now we're talking.
The Accidental Tourist, My Blue Heaven. Then he goes and does Groundhog Day in 93, followed by In the Line of Fire in 93, Nobody's Fool in 94. Then he goes and does Extreme Measures, Passion in 96, As Good as It Gets, Living Out Loud, The Out-of-Towners, For the Love of the Game, Antitrust, The Anniversary Party, The Kid Stays in the Picture, Divine Secrets of the Ya-Ya Sisterhood, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, Incident in Loch Ness, Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, Must Love Dogs, The Producers, Bobby Z, License to Wed, Mad Money, Over Her Dead Body, He's Just Not That Into You, When in Rome, Ramona and Beezus, Country Strong, Big Miracle, The Way, Way Back, The Angriest Man in Brooklyn, The Forger, A Walk in the Woods, and How to Be a Latin Lover, capping it off with 10 Tricks in 2022.
My God, I want to say something real quick.
Yeah.
The man has done some films with truly memorable titles.
Yeah.
Secrets of the Ya-Ya Sisterhood.
Mm-hmm. Divine Secrets of the Ya-Ya
Divine, thank you.
Yes.
I'm so sorry.
That was one of my mom's favorites.
And
Actually,
of course
it probably still is.
And then Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants.
Yes.
Again, very memorable. And then, of course, How to Be a Latin Lover.
Mm-hmm.
Phenomenal.
Which stars our guy from the Overboard remake. I can't think of his name. The oh god damn it! What the other? There was another movie we watched recently with him in. But How to Be a Latin Lover is supposed to be hilarious. I haven't seen it yet, but
it better be funny.
Moving into our cast, we have Mr. Bill Murray, who plays Phil Connors in the film. He gets to start in 77 on a little show called Saturday Night Live.
What is it called again?
Live from New York, it's Saturday night.
Remember, it was just called Saturday Night.
That is true.
Which, by the way, I highly recommend. It just hit Netflix.
Yeah, it's good.
I highly recommend checking out Saturday Night if you haven't. Even if you don't like SNL, even if you didn't watch it in its heyday.
Yeah.
Really fun.
And really fun J.K. Simmons cameo, too.
First of all, every J.K. Simmons cameo is a wonderful J.K. Simmons cameo.
Yes, absolutely.
But yes.
So Meatballs in 79, Caddyshack in 1980, Stripes in 81, Tootsie, Ghostbusters, Little Shop of Horrors. He does Scrooge in 88, Quick Change in 1990, Groundhog Day in 93. He has Kingpin, Space Jam, Wild Things, which for some reason I freaking forgot he was in. I don't know how.
Wild Things?
Yeah, he plays a cop.
I'm going to be honest. I may have forgotten all but
one thing.
7 minutes of that film.
Rushmore in 98, Charlie's Angels in 2000, Osmosis Jones 2001, Lost in Translation, Garfield in 2004.
Which I love that they got him to be the voice in the movie after very similar to like the Mandela effect of Daria, the cartoon on MTV. Everybody thought that was Janine Garofalo.
Yeah.
Everybody thought Bill Murray was the voice of Garfield
yeah.
on the cartoons and TV specials.
And I still love that he agreed to do it because of the Coens, but then it wasn't the Coens that he knew.
Ain't that just the way life goes?
Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou in 2004, Zombieland, The Monuments Men, St. Vincent in 2014, Dead Don't Die in 2019.
St. Vincent, a very underrated, great film.
I love St. Vincent.
I like when he makes the kid sardines on crackers and calls it sushi.
So good. Ghostbusters Afterlife in 2021. We also have Andie MacDowell in the cast, who plays Rita Hanson in the film. She gets her start in 84's Greystoke, The Legend of Tarzan. Goes on to do St. Elmo's Fire, Sex, Lies, and Videotape. Hudson Hawk in 91. The Player, previous episode in 92.
Well,
she was actually in it.
She actually said a word?
Lines, multiple. She talks to the one agent when they go into the bar and he gets ambushed by that guy for the movie pitch with the umbrellas.
I vaguely believe you.
Groundhog Day in 93.
Okay.
Shortcuts in 93, Four Weddings and a Funeral in 94, Bad Girls in 94, Michael in 96, The End of Violence in 97, Muppets from Space in 99, Town and Country in 2001, Dinner with Friends, The Practice, Beauty Shop, Riding the Bus with My Sister in 2005, Intervention, Prince of Motor City, The Fifth Quarter, Daydream Nation, Monte Carlo in 2011, Footloose remake in 2011, 30 Rock, Magic Mike XXL, Trial and Error, Only the Brave, Ready or Not in 2019, which he's great in.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wireless
Phenomenal.
in 2020, Made in 2021 on Netflix, and most recently Goodrich, that Michael Keaton movie we got to watch.
Oh, okay.
And wrapping up our cast is Mr. Chris Elliott, returning to the show from Snow Day, who plays Larry the cameraman in this.
And he's great at being a real prick.
Yeah.
But you're like, yeah, you got a point, though. Like, when he's being a prick to Bill Murray's character, it's like, hey, well, yeah,
you're fine.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
He gets a start in 1986 Manhunter, then goes on to do Miami Vice in 87, The Abyss in 89, Get a Life as TV series in 1990, Groundhog Day in 93, then goes on to be in CB4 the movie in 93, Cabin Boy in 94.
The illustrious hit film, Cabin Boy.
That Letterman had no problem talking about with him on his show.
Letterman, I always liked Letterman, but holy crap, did he have a mean streak. He had a meanness to him.
Yeah, he did.
And when he did, he sure did.
Yeah.
My Lord.
It's like people have been unearthing the interview he did with Lindsay Lohan right before she went to rehab. That interview is real mean.
I can only imagine.
Yeah. The Adventures of Pete and Pete in 94, Saturday Night Live in 94, Kingpin, The Naked Truth, There's Something About Mary in 98, Snow Day in 2000, Scary Movie 2 in 2001, Osmosis Jones in 2001, The Weber Show, According to Jim, Scary Movie 4, Dance Flick, The Dictator, Eagleheart, Nurse Jackie, Schitt's Creek in 2015, Sandy Wexler in 2017, and most recently Carved in 2024. Which, is that the Hulu Pumpkin movie?
Yeah. Oh, he's in it.
He's in it? Okay, I didn't know that. I had no idea.
Oh, yeah. He was the first person I had to Google. I was like, wait. Yeah, it was him.
No shit.
Yeah, he's in it. It's pretty good. My problem with it, I think I've talked about this on the show before.
Yeah.
My problem with it was that there were some characters you really, really like that are built up to be extremely believable.
Yeah.
But then you're supposed to like laugh when you find their severed head, and it don't work for me.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it doesn't work for you out there, you kids, you kittens that like the horror comedies.
Well, it's Y2K did the same thing.
Yeah, and that movie stank. I mean, it wasn't
Didn't
that bad.
stink.
No, but it wasn't great.
Yeah.
It wasn't great. And one of the reasons it wasn't great was that I felt like every time I thought I was like invested, then they would just pull the rug.
Yeah.
Which in a way, okay, I take it back. It's a little too harsh on Y2K. Let the box office be the pummeling.
Ow.
Dude, even I was shocked that they spent so much money on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, and again, I'm not the audience for horror comedies, so I'm not here to say you out there in the world should not like horror comedies.
Fair.
But I certainly am not a big fan of horror comedies. There have been some though, like Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Perfect.
Yeah.
So funny. I'd watch it a million times.
Yeah.
So, and there are other Shaun of the Dead and all that,
Well, I mean, hell, this could have been a horror comedy if they would have gone with some of the original screenplays.
Well, and when you find out how many days he actually lived same day over and over.
I've got that in the trivia.
That makes it a horror movie to me.
Yeah, I would say so. So you ready to get into the movie?
No, I would not want to live the same day over and over again, especially not. I didn't see. This is why I need to get more sleep at night, I guess, because that would have been the perfect segue. Would be anyway. Here's the day I don't want to live over and over. But instead, for some reason, I was stuck on thinking about. I do when I have like 4 things happen poorly in a row that were up to chance. I literally hear in my head, I have a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day.
Did you sing that during quarantine?
No, I just cried and washed my dishes a lot.
I think that was the closest I came to Groundhog Day. Was quarantine.
Yeah, you just wake up to Sonny and Cher, get yourself a bottle of wine in the shower.
There was a day. There was a week.
Oh Lord, okay.
That I would basically start my day by telling my system that I'm not going to say the name of because she may hear her name in the room right now.
Your system?
The automated system.
Yeah, she's always listening.
Yeah, she's always listening. But I wanted her to play, no joke, Every Day is Exactly the Same by 9 Inch Nails when I got up for a week.
That is the most Dave thing I've ever heard in my life. And I don't want to be on this planet anymore.
I believe I could see the future. Oh, yeah. That was a sad, sad time.
I have to let it stand because I sang Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day so much. So
that's fair.
Fair enough.
So Groundhog Day opens on February 1st. We are meeting cynical television weatherman Phil Connors, and he is going through his spiel in the weather forecast, even doing some fun humor things. He seems fun at first.
Yeah, but very quickly that fun humor becomes clear that there's an edge to it, that he just resents his job
entirely
and everybody involved.
Yeah.
Intensely.
I mean, he's in Pittsburgh, and he's in Pennsylvania, right? Yeah, West Pennsylvania.
He's in Pittsburgh.
Okay, yeah, he's in Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm almost certain he's in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, no, he's in Pittsburgh. He's over here. Yep. So he wraps up his forecast, and he tells everybody that he's not going to be around for the 6 o'clock because he's going to Punxsutawney because tomorrow is Groundhog Day.
Yeah, Punxsutawney.
And he has to do the live report as they always do, and he's taking along his new producer Rita Hanson and cameraman Larry with him.
Larry the cameraman.
And
I do love when he makes one of the jokes that stuck out right away was he says, like, I have offers from major networks.
Yeah.
And Chris Elliott's character is just like, that's the home shopping network.
And then he leaves.
Yeah.
So they are traveling to Punxsutawney, and he's talking with Rita and Larry and basically just being cynical about how I can't wait to be done with this. This is the last one. And she's even asking him, like, what's the big deal? Like, why don't you like Groundhog's Day?
Yeah, because we get the vibe he's done this
Many
several times.
Yeah.
And to him, this is just like, we're going to go look at the yokels pulling out their rodent.
Yeah.
And I get where his producer's coming from, because she's like, can't you just like, this is kind of fun. Like, it's a cute town. I've been to Punxsutawney. It's very cute.
I've heard it is. Yeah.
She's like, can't we just have some fun? Like, you get to go to a place you haven't been to very often. You get to see people having fun and dancing. You get to do a fun thing, a fun remote. Plus, the worst part about him complaining is once they get there and they do his stand-up about it, they're like done. Like he like had to work from like 11 a.m. to like 11 a.m. to like 2 p.m.
Yeah, 2 p.m. Like that's it. Yeah.
Show business is so hard.
Dude, as somebody who had to cover the Strawberry Festival for many years, multiple days of the Strawberry Festival, mind you.
How long did it take the strawberries to see their goddamn shadow?
Oh my God. So it would start on technically Friday is when it started. They would have the thing downtown, and then the festival would open officially Saturday with them dyeing the fountain. So then you had Saturday and Sunday, but then
they dye the fountain.
They dye the fountain red.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I hope it wasn't red number 3.
It was not red number 3, I don't think.
I guess now they're not allowed to do that.
They can't do that anymore. But I would have to, no joke, walk that entire goddamn town carrying my tripod, my camera bag, because the festivities would be on the levee, and streets are shut down, so I can't drive.
Yeah.
So I'm walking.
Well, for the record, I mean, regardless of how the streets are, you can't drive.
How dare you? So it was just getting to a point that once I saw Groundhog Day, I was in college, so I hadn't had this experience yet. But after seeing Groundhog Day, I really started to get that feeling of Phil after a bit with the fucking festival.
You were like, I'm a grizzled 20-something.
Oh, yeah. So he's happy to be leaving the station for his new job, and he is not shy at all about telling them about it. They get into Punxsutawney, and they pull up to a hotel, and he immediately is like, no, not staying here. This place is not for me. And she's like, no, this is where Larry and I are staying. I booked you in a nice bed and breakfast.
Yeah, which, again, would make the experience so much more charming.
Yeah.
To get to stay at a bed and breakfast, you get to meet nice people. But of course, he's not going to take advantage of any of that.
Curmudgeon as he is. So he wakes up the next day, and we get our first taste of Sonny and Cher's I Got You, Babe. And I really hope we hear it more, because I do like that song.
I don't know if we will, though. Just being honest.
So we hear two guys going on about Groundhog's Day. He opens his window. He sees the festival is in full swing. So he heads out downstairs, runs into, I cannot remember the actor's name, but he's the Santa Claus in Home Alone.
Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh. He's one of those character actors.
Yeah.
He's great in everything. Big heavy set guy, great memorable voice.
And of course he's asking, hey, do you think the groundhog's going to see a shadow? When do you think spring's going to start? And he gives him the exact date for spring starting.
Yeah. And I always feel for that guy too, because everybody in that bed and breakfast, they like know who he is because he's the weatherman from Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And Pittsburgh's the big market.
Yeah.
On that side of PA, because on the other side is Philly, and in between is not a whole lot other than a college.
Yeah.
A college that literally they had to make a town called State College so that it wasn't in Philly or Pittsburgh.
Oh my God.
I'm serious.
I believe it.
Because that's like the level of, it's so different. Pittsburgh is a Midwest kind of working class town.
Yeah.
And Philly is a very East Coast style town.
Yeah.
It's much more like New Jersey, as to where Pittsburgh is much more like Ohio.
Yep.
In that way. And I like both cities very, very much. I'm not trying to crap on them. I also know a little bit, and I'll talk about it more in a second, about getting stuck in a blizzard on those very highways.
I can bet you do.
Twice.
Yeah, I can bet you do.
2 times, and then and then an ice storm, rather.
Jeez. So speaking of a storm, the woman who runs the bed and breakfast, which is very, very sweet, and Phil comes down, no shit at all, just completely being a dick again.
He gives no shits at all.
Can I have a cappuccino? I don't suppose there's a cappuccino. Oh, no, we don't have that. Oh, I didn't think so. Like under his breath and everything. Just being a complete dick. He even mentions that the storm they're supposed to get is probably not going to hit them. It's going to go right past them, and he does this whole weather spiel.
Well, he is a meteorologist, so like I do love because when it hits really bad, he's like, "No, it's going to blow down with the upper pressure system." He's just explaining it. Meanwhile, they're standing in the middle of a snowstorm. It's like, no, trust me, I know what I'm talking about.
Correct me if I'm wrong. This is when he goes and sees Ned, right? Ned runs into him right after this, or is it after the first round?
Yeah, it's like when he's heading to meet them for breakfast.
Thought so, yeah. So he's walking out to Punxsutawney, and he's going to go meet them, and he runs into somebody who recognizes him right away, and we meet the great Stephen Tobolowsky as Ned Ryerson.
One of the greatest character actors known to mankind.
So good. And Tobo, it wastes no time being Tobo.
Tobo? Is that you guys are on that on a nickname basis now?
Pretty sure that's what he called. Wasn't Tobo Stories? Wasn't that what he called his podcast?
It could be.
I feel like that's what he called it.
I just call him Lowski. He likes that. Lowski.
So he is Ned Ryerson, and of course Phil knows who he is, but wants to act like he doesn't. And he's like going through all these things that he had shingles real bad in school, and he dated his sister at one point, and then he asked him to stop.
That's the funniest part, is because he's trying. We've all probably ran into somebody from school or whatever, and my favorite dick move is the whole, I don't remember you.
Yeah.
Like, that's such a crummy way to kind of like, but it's also a way to like stop the small talker because you don't want to talk to them. I'm very fortunate. Can't imagine why, but I've never had anybody pretend they don't remember me from school. I can't imagine why. But it's so funny because they saying I don't remember you. He just has thing after thing that is so incredibly memorable. Mm-hmm. Remember, I almost died of shingles. Remember? But then he's like, I dated your sister that year.
Until you told me to stop.
Yeah, until you told me to stop. Like, he has every reason to be remembered. He's like, no.
And he has his key catchphrase, Bing!
Bing! Oh, my God. Bing.
So he tells Ned that he's got to go work on the Punxsutawney, on the Groundhog Day report, so he goes off and walks, and he steps off the sidewalk into a giant puddle. And Ned goes, oh, look out for that puddle. It's a doozy.
Look out for that first step. It's a doozy. And again, very great balance to the writing. You're supposed to feel bad for this guy because our main character's being a chotch about everything. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, he's annoying and kind of a dick himself.
He is.
Although then again, I mean, he is reacting to basically being treated like he's an idiot.
Yeah.
He also tries to sell him life insurance.
He does.
Which doesn't make you more likable in that circumstance. But it's like, you can tell this guy doesn't want to talk to you, and now you're going to try and sell him something on top of it.
If you have life insurance, you can never have too much.
Yeah, that was, oh my gosh, he's the hard sell really helps make that rough.
He's so good. So then Phil goes out to Gobbler's Knob. He's getting ready for the festival, and they're going to pull Phil out and get everything basically read off their little scroll. So that's when we find out that it's going to be 6 more weeks of winter.
6 more weeks. Well, according to the groundhog.
According to the groundhog, yes. And of course, the guy that is pulling the groundhog out is Bill Murray's own brother, Brian Doyle Murray.
Yes, yeah. And I mean, who better?
As Buster.
Buster. Was he the mayor of the town, or was he?
I believe he's the mayor or something along those lines, yeah. So he wraps up the report really shittily. Like, I can't remember what he says exactly, but she's even like, can you do that again, but less cynical or less sarcastic?
He's like, no.
Yeah, no. So then he goes back to his, they go to a diner, and he's ready to leave. They get on the road, and right as they're getting on the road, the blizzard starts to hit.
Whoops. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy.
They get stopped like just right outside of town, and the cop's like, you got to go back. And of course, he gets out of the car.
It's great. He's standing there being pelted by snow, and he's like, no, you don't understand. It's going to come up and through there, and like, this is nothing. But I love it. That's another one of my favorite jokes to start off the movie, because he says, look, you either go back to Punxsutawney or you can freeze to death. And he's like, I'm thinking about it.
I love it because he's shivering while he's talking, like not
and
at
his
first.
hair's filling with snow.
Yes. So they are forced to spend the night in the town. So he goes back to his motel, and then the next morning he wakes up, and he's hearing the radio say the same report.
Yeah, he's hearing Sonny and Cher, followed by, because it's cold outside.
And at first he's like, oh, you're playing the same tape, or you're playing the tape, guys. Like, he thinks he's busted them and everything. And that's when he opens the window and sees that it is exactly the same day again.
Yeah, well, and then it becomes especially clear because he gets the same greetings in the morning. He goes outside, somebody walks by.
The guy in the hallway, Yeah,
and then he goes outside, the lady's like, I'm going to see, it's Groundhog Day. And he's like,
isn't that once a year?
Is it still once a year?
So he thinks he's experiencing deja vu, which he absolutely is.
Well, do you remember when he asks the lady at the bed and breakfast? Yeah. He's like, do you know what deja vu is? And she's like, I don't think we have that, but I can ask the kitchen.
Ask the cabinet, yeah. So that's when he again goes and does his report. He tries to leave town, and it doesn't work out again. So he goes back to bed the next day again. He's even talking to Rita, and he's like, I'm leaving the same day again. She's like, yeah, whatever. Do your report. So they don't believe him. Nobody believes him. So that's when he awakes, and again, February 2nd once again. So he gradually starts to realize that he is now trapped in this time loop.
Yeah, and I've never seen somebody so mad at something that is like that's not only beyond your control, but also beyond your comprehension.
Yeah.
Like, this doesn't happen to much of anybody ever. You've never heard of it ever happening to anybody ever.
It's terrifying to think about.
Yeah. Yeah, when I said, when I found out how long they had written in the script that he had been suffering, that made me uneasy.
We will give you that answer at the end of this podcast, dear listener.
Ooh, nice cliffhanger.
Yeah, it's you may think you don't know shit. So,
you think you know me, but you don't know anything.
So once again, he shows up at the festival, and he's trying to talk to Rita about, I've done this now 3 times. Like, I know what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen and everything. And that's when she's like, okay, well, if you really feel this way, let's get you to a neurologist. And that in turn takes him to a psychologist, the great Harold Ramis.
Well, what he says though is he says, like, you're a producer, like, help me, tell me what to do. She's like, I think you should get your head examined.
Yeah.
So then it smash cuts to Harold Ramis, and he has an x-ray of his head, and he's like, everything looks fine here.
If you want to get a CAT scan, you're gonna have to go out.
Yeah, he's like, unfortunately, if you want a CAT scan or a CT scan, you'll have to go to Pittsburgh for that.
He's like, I can't leave town. He's like, what do you mean?
He's like, I've tried. He's like, I'd recommend a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
And then
he goes and sees a psychiatrist.
And the psychiatrist is so overwhelmed by what appears to be a paranoid delusion, by the way.
Yeah.
Because of course it would be a paranoid delusion. So he's just like very nervous as he's telling him, like, I'm trapped here. I'm living the same day. And he's just like, I mostly handle couples.
Yeah.
And I have an alcoholic now, which...
I have an alcoholic now.
I have an alcoholic now. And he's like excited about it. Which I think is it's a great like depiction of small town America, that it's like, we have the basics, but like nobody's even equipped to deal with your level of neuroses and confusion.
Well, and going back to the small town, I think one of my favorite things that I've kind of glossed over is any time we're in the diner in town and all the people that are around there, the locals and everything. We've got, the tray that drops in the plates, and you got Rick DeCommon that goes, hey, just put that anywhere, guy.
Yeah. And he can predict, he can go like, and plates. And it's
so good. So that is when he decides that he is going to go get drunk with a few locals, and we have Gus and Ralph, and that is when he gets them in the car. You know, they've had a few drinks, and he's going to drive them, but he decides that he's going to try to figure this out a little bit more. So they start driving on train tracks, and that's one of my favorite things is he's basically talking to me. He's like, you know, what would you guys do if there was no consequences tomorrow? And that's when Rick Ducommon's like, well, basically, you could pretty much do anything.
Yeah, he's like, I'm tired of being told, go to bed on time. I'm tired of being told, like, do your homework. I'm tired of being told, don't drive on the railroad tracks. Yeah.
Well, I actually think that's a good one, Phil.
I kind of like that one, Phil.
So he starts leading police on this chase on the train tracks, and they go all the way down. They pull a chicken right in front of a train at the last second. He pulls off, and that's when the cop pulls up because they were originally like talking about going to get flapjacks, and so the cop comes over and he's like, 2 cheeseburgers. Is it too early for flapjacks?
Yeah. What do you guys want?
So he gets arrested. He's in prison. We see the bars close, and he just kind of has this grin on his face because he knows that when the next morning comes, he's going to be back in his bed.
Yeah.
And sure as shit, the next morning comes, we hear Sonny and Cher, I got you, babe. And Phil wakes up once again in the Cherry Street Inn. And he just has this grin on his face and realizing now there are no consequences at all for his actions.
Yeah, so now he's moving into the fun and games portion.
Yeah.
Which is where he does things like just walks up to that attractive girl that he sees kind of passing by because it's a small town.
Yeah.
So you're seeing some people at the bed and breakfast, then you're seeing them also at the diner, then you're seeing them walking down the street, then you're seeing wherever. So he just grills her.
Yeah.
For a bunch of information. You know, what was your 6th grade teacher? What was this and this and this? And then the next day he's using that info as an in to like, hey, we knew each other.
I sat behind you. I was in your class. We had such and such.
Yeah. And then he says like, let's catch up later. And he uses that to completely as an in to bed her immediately.
Smash cut to her house. They're having sex. And then you've also got the next night he's taking, is it her or another woman to the movies?
It might have been her. I'm not sure.
I can't remember. But anyway, he's dressed as the man with no name, Clint Eastwood. Has the cigar and everything, talks in the accent. And they go see the movie. But then we also get into the other darker side where he is doing nonstop binge eating right in front of Rita in the diner because he knows that they're not going. Yeah, so he's shoving entire like angel food cake in his mouth.
And she's like, what makes you so special that you have no consequences to your actions?
Drinking coffee from the pot.
Oh, yeah, I'm saying just keep it coming, please. And the waitress is like, all right.
So that's when Larry comes over. He's like, we got to get on the road. And he's like, well, I'm not going anywhere. Like, you guys go ahead. So then that's when we also move into another activity where he has been through the days, probably about a couple weeks at this point, to where he times a robbery off of a bank truck.
Yeah. He just walks up, picks up the thing because he knows exactly when they're going to turn away, all this stuff. So he just takes a bunch of money.
Yeah. So he takes a bunch of money, has a huge bag of money, and I think that's when they cut to the movie theater after that. So we also see that he just starts having increasing knowledge. Like he runs back into Ned, and the second time he's like, he goes, Ned Ryerson hugs him, and he's like, hey, do you have any place to go? Could you stay?
Yeah,
and,
do you have anywhere you have to be? Could you stay?
Could you call in?
Yeah, could you call in?
And Ned's immediately just gross.
And he's just like, I've missed you.
I've missed you. And goes running. And one of my favorite parts here is right as Ned goes running, the part on the sidewalk where the woman where he stepped off, another person steps off. He watches them go in and get their foot wet just like he did, and that's that like immediate evil look on his face.
Oh yeah,
we're off to the races now.
Yeah.
So that's when he eventually focuses on Rita. He wants to seduce Rita. He's basically had everybody in town at this point, so we're to believe, and now he's focusing his attraction on his producer.
Yeah, so he's asking her personal questions.
Yeah.
And then spending time like reading her favorite books.
Mm-hmm.
So that then they can talk and he can quote her favorite books.
And this like all comes to pass basically when they are going to the Punxsutawney celebration later that night. They're at a bar and he comes over and sits next to her for a drink. And he's like, he orders her, orders her a drink first that she like something on the rocks or something. I can't remember that. And she wants a sweet vermouth with a twist.
And he says, "Sweet vermouth with a twist." Like he's trying to remember it.
And the way
he can't write anything down, the paper will be gone.
Well, the way the editing is, we go immediately to it. Like it's just like sweet vermouth with a twist. Next night we're there.
Sweet vermouth with a twist.
I love it. And like he keeps winning her over a little bit more and manipulates her, but no matter what happens, she's on to him. She knows right away. So I mean, we see them have a nice night together, but he gets slapped multiple times.
Yeah, we see him get rejected again and again and again and again. And it's honestly, at first, it's pretty charming until you really. The thing about this movie is it's like all comedy.
Yeah.
The further you are from it, the funnier it looks.
Yeah.
And, there's a part of you that can't even hate on him too bad. It's like, what else is he going to do? He's just stuck in this loop. He's, he's trying to cut ahead so that he can have these, I guess distracting experiences.
I would say so, yes.
Yeah.
So basically, he always gets denied from her when he tells her he loves her. Like, that's the number one thing that she does not want to hear.
Bullshit.
Yeah, you don't know me. I don't know you. Like, you're just going off of this one thing. So he gradually just starts to become depressed in the movie.
Yeah.
So by this point, we are over into suicide realm.
Yeah, and this is where the fun and games really starts to stop.
Yeah, because not only does he start with basically going into downstairs, grabbing the toaster, going into the tub. He just
pulls the toaster right off where they're serving breakfast at the bed and breakfast and just drops it in the tub.
And the lights flicker.
Yeah, they're all just down there eating and they see the lights and they're like, huh.
He jumps off a tower. He gets hit by a car. He even says at one point that he's been shot, stabbed, poisoned, and all these things.
Yeah.
Which we don't see a lot of these, which, again, I'll get to that in the trivia at the end as to why. But this all leads to him going and kidnapping Punxsutawney Phil.
Which is one of the most memorable moments and a great moment for the trailer.
Yeah.
Because there's a whole scene where he's basically letting Punxsutawney Phil, which, by the way, he hates even more because he's Phil.
Yeah.
And Punxsutawney Phil is Phil.
Yeah.
So he's letting the groundhog steer the car.
Don't drive angry. Don't drive angry.
It's a great moment because the levity is what makes this movie stick so well.
Yeah.
To where people, even with the heavy themes that we're about to really uncover,
get into, yeah.
And with the heavy theme of the fact that what the movie's really saying is that most of the time we all waste the potential we have every single day.
Absolutely.
That every single day is an immense amount of opportunities to grow, to meet people, to love, to all these things. But having a scene where Bill Murray steals a groundhog and goes for a joyride really does, it's really the spoonful of sugar to help the medicine go down.
Police chase in full pursuit. He is going on the road and he's driving with Phil. Phil's on the steering wheel. And finally we get to like a cliff ravine. I mean, it's basically a giant cliff.
Yeah, it's like a cliff. Yeah.
So he is parked at the end. The cops have caught up with him and he says, fuck it, we're going over. So takes him and Phil right over the edge and once again awakens on February 2nd to I Got You, Babe. And the one thing that I also have glossed over is it starts out, he's happy to hear the alarm clock.
Yeah, and then he starts like, he's hitting it with his hands, and then at one point he's just beating it
with a hammer, throwing it, stomping on it, and I mean, that's basically where I Got You, Babe. We see once 5:59 and it falls into 6 a.m. every morning, it gets heavier, it gets slower.
And the way they film it,
yeah,
they use a like macro lens, and they slow it down. So here's a filmmaking trick. If you want something small to look bigger,
yeah,
the secret isn't just making it look bigger in the lens by using, macro photography, trick photography. It's the speed that it moves because big things move slow and small things move fast.
Yeah.
And when in the olden days, when they would shoot on film, they would actually do the math of like, what size is this supposed to be? And then they'd figure out how many frames per second to run the camera. Because if you run extra frames, it goes slower. If you run less frames, it goes faster. One of the most famous examples of how that works is Godzilla. In the original Toho productions, where it was a man in a suit. Because famously, one of my favorite things about Godzilla, and I think a lot of people as well, is that when Godzilla does something, he always has that incredible beat before he goes,
yeah.
Which, by the way, is a bow on a bass, like an upright bass, playing the strings on the bottom side of the bridge.
Oh, shit. I did not know that.
I learned that because I was a classically trained violinist.
That makes sense.
And when I learned that, I went straight to one of the bass players and asked him to do it. And I was like, that's it. That's it. It was the Leo DiCaprio snapping. Oh, that's it.
That's it.
But so my point is, the reason that there's that wait before he roars is because the actor in the suit is being captured in like double time or so it's half as fast, maybe even a little bit more.
Yeah.
So that wait is because the timing is just going to be slower. But it works great for Godzilla. So when he's filming this because it's one of those flap alarm clocks that has the little flaps that change the time, it shows them fall and hit. Now, for all I know, because this was a big budget movie, maybe they actually built giant ones. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But they move so slow, and when they hit, it has bass to it, and you see the little wiggle as it lands. And it's such a beautiful example of show don't tell, where you could have Bill Murray say, I am so miserable, I dread when I wake up, or you could do that.
Yeah.
And it's memorable, so memorable that it was one of the first thoughts I had when we were talking about doing this film on the show.
Well, and I mean, it goes without saying too that like as the movie progresses, we see him get worse and worse. Even though he's waking up a different person or the same person every day, he is getting rougher.
No, he's changing though. He's changing a lot.
Yeah, because there's
quickly.
that great overhead where put your booties on, campers. It's cold outside.
Yeah, where he's just saying it back. Yeah,
and he's just looking so gray and everything. So eventually it gets to the point where he realizes he can't kill himself, so he is deciding that he wants to try to explain the situation to Rita again and be sincere about it and try to woo her once more. So
part of it, I don't even know. Part of it
he's
might
probably
be
just looking for a friend.
But he's probably he's so miserable and so lonely.
Yeah.
And you have to imagine for a second, let's say that he's not even the biggest sleazeball in the world. Let's say that he, because every day he gets to know a woman better and better.
Yeah.
Let's say that he just really likes them. Nothing matters.
No.
No matter how much they get along, no matter how good they make him feel, he'll never be deeper than that one moment. It's a very brilliant metaphor for like casual sex or one night stands, suggesting that they could actually make you immensely more lonely.
Yeah.
Because, no matter what you do, no matter how much you spend time with them, no matter how they make you feel in the moment, it's always over.
Yeah.
It's always over.
Well, and like you start out having resentment for him as a character because I mean he's not a likable guy.
Not at all.
And I mean through the movie he doesn't really get more likable at this point. So you're kind of struggling because you're just like shit. Like I start to feel really bad for him at this point, as I think most of the viewers are supposed to.
Yeah, once he's like killing himself over and over again, you're already like,
yeah. Because at first you're just like, oh yeah, no consequences sounds great, and then it's just like, oh yeah, by year one.
Well, then you realize no consequences means no benefit, means no good things. It's like my mom always pounded into my head: nothing ventured, nothing gained. If you have nothing to lose, you have nothing to get.
Nothing to get.
You have nothing at all.
Yeah.
So
that's when he decides to use his knowledge of the loop to try and get through to her. So he starts telling her about how when the plates are going to fall, and he starts explaining everybody in the diner to her. And what sells her is he tells her that Larry's going to come over here in a second and say something, and I want you to stay with me. And he writes down verbatim that Larry says, "All right, the van's ready. Do you guys want to go?"
No, it's we want to get out of here now if we want to stay ahead of the weather. And literally, she holds up the piece of paper and it says, "If we want to stay ahead of the weather."
So that's when they have a nice night together. They go out.
They have a heart to heart.
Yeah,
they connect in a deeper way.
And once again, we kind of see that because is this the point where they have the snowball fight and like he's trying to explain that he doesn't want kids now, he wants lots and lots of kids. And
I think so. I mean, it all kind of blends together because it's the same day.
Same day, yeah. So he's taking her out and they're walking in the snow and some kids start throwing snowballs and he starts playing back with them and we see this repeated and it just gets sadder because at first he's just like. He's like, I want to have kids. I just want to have a lot of kids. Just trying to sell it to her completely.
Yeah.
So that's when he realizes that he really does have feelings for her. So they lay together in bed one night, and he knows that the next morning she's going to be gone. Because,
and she says she'll stay up with him.
Yeah.
Which is then so cruel because it hits midnight, and she's like, we did it. And he's like, no, it's not until 6 a.m. She's like, you didn't tell me that. I didn't know there were specific rules. He's like, I
don't know what the rules are.
I'm just learning this as quickly at the same pace as you are.
So he awakens lone on February 2nd again, and that's when we start to see this change start to form in him.
Yeah.
Because this is where he starts using his knowledge of things to make things better.
Or at least to try.
And that's a big, try is the big word.
Because one of the things that made me cry as a teenager watching this was the homeless man.
Old man.
Who, in the first time he wakes up, is just on the corner begging for change.
Yeah.
He doesn't. He ignores him like a lot of people.
He does the whole
he does the
check
the
my pockets and walk away.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But now he's like, at first it's just he like gave him a shitload of money.
Yeah.
And he's like, but then it became he was like, I'm gonna take him out for food. So he feeds him a bunch of food and he dies.
Yeah.
By the end of the night, he dies.
The first time he finds him is in the back alley.
Yeah, he finds him
that's
dead.
when he gets his notice of it.
So then he tries to like take care of him more.
Yeah.
And so he finds him, he dies. He feeds him the food. He still dies.
Still dies.
He spends time. He takes him to the doctor.
hospital.
He takes him to to be looked over.
Yeah.
And the lady even says, like, I'm sorry.
He didn't make it.
Well, it was just his time.
Yeah.
So now
And
we're dealing.
He goes into the room, though, grabs his chart and says, not today. I do love that line. Sometimes people just die. Not today.
Not today.
Yeah.
But it now we're playing with themes not only of like living every day to the fullest or what have you.
Yeah.
We're also living with the idea that some things are fate and some things can't be stopped. Some things it's too late.
Yeah. So he starts testing everything possible. There's a kid that's climbing a tree that falls out of the tree at one point in the day, and he's trying to run up and save him. There's old ladies that have a flat tire in the street.
He becomes a hero of the community because he knows exactly where to be at all times.
Saves Buster from choking on a steak at one point.
Yeah.
And even one of my favorites is he starts taking up hobbies. So like one of my favorites is he goes to the local piano teacher's house and she's got a student. She's like, well, I'm kind of with somebody, can you come back Monday? He's like, well, I have $1,000, could you see me out?
And she just pushes the kid right out the door.
Right
I
out
love
the
it.
door.
I love that so much.
So then once again, in the beautiful editing, we see him be shitty at piano, and then the next day he's better at piano, and then she's like, are you sure you've never had a lesson before? As he's just starting to kick
He's like,
ass.
you're just a really good teacher.
Yeah. So he even takes up sculpting ice, and we see him arrive at the Punxsutawney festival, and he's got coffee for his cameraman and his producer and donuts,
which
and
they're all
everything.
worried he's like dying.
Yeah.
They're like, did you get some news from a doctor or something?
Even to the point where he decides that he's going to embrace the Groundhog Day, and is like, hey, I talked to Buster. He says we can move over here. We got a better shot.
Yeah, he's like, we can get closer. We can get a better shot. He said, yeah. He's become friends with basically everybody to the point where when he's walking around, he's like the mayor. Everybody stopped and saying thank you. He's like, oh, her husband had an issue, whatever. Oh, their cat was in the tree. Oh, that.
So that is when we eventually we get to the last day, I guess we'll say it, spoilers. And he gives a very eloquent speech at Groundhog Day, moves everyone, and they're all loving his speech. He's even up on stage giving it for his for the broadcast, and that's when Rita starts to really take notice of him, especially helping the people of Punxsutawney. So that night, she witnesses him playing piano expertly as they go to the Punxsutawney celebration dinner. He's sitting on stage just going on that piano. I mean, it is such a kick-ass scene. I love him doing that piano.
Yeah. And that's when, if I remember correctly, that's when he's in the auction.
Yeah,
that is correct. The auction where this old school thing, I don't know if anybody ever does that anymore now, but there used to be this thing where you would auction bachelors.
Yep.
For dates. You would do it with women too, but it always felt more weird doing it with women, where it would be like this bachelor, and sometimes they'd even be just like a married dude, but that people like. Yeah. And the idea was whoever bid the most money to charity, you'd go out to dinner with them. And
the entire town's calling him up.
They all want him, but I forget, what was the number? Do you remember? Like, did she say like $2,000,
$200 and such and such cents?
She had the most amount of money. She like bid this insane amount of money.
Yeah.
So now they're on a date that she's paid to go on with him.
Yep.
Because he's the best version of himself. Yeah. He spent a lifetime kind of squandering so much, and now he's done a lot of living.
Yeah.
In that same day over and over. Learning to play the piano is a great metaphor for learning and growing and becoming a better person.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what he's doing the entirety of that latter half of his torment.
Yeah. And I mean, and at this event, everybody's stopping him, thanking him for saving Buster's life. He gives a young Michael Shannon in his film feature debut WrestleMania tickets.
Oh yeah, WrestleMania.
Yeah, to him and his new wife. I mean, he's recognized by everybody. So when he goes to this charity auction, they go up. And one of my favorite things before we get out of the charity auction is Larry goes up.
Yes, he does.
And no one's bidding. And so Buster's like, I'll start the bidding at 50 cents. And this woman goes, sold.
Yeah. $2.
So that's when, he's taken up ice sculpting. So he goes outside, carves her a beautiful ice sculpture while she has her eyes closed, and shows it to her at the end. Tells her that no matter what happens, even if he's trapped in this loop forever, he's happy to finally be with her.
Yeah.
And they have a great night together. They share a kiss. They go to his room. And that's when, they have this beautiful time together on the bed, just talking and everything. And eventually they both fall asleep. They wake up and we hear, I got you, babe. And then we also hear the DJs going, oh, I can't believe you're playing that song again. And we realize it's February 3rd.
Yes.
The curse is broken.
Yes. And
So
they had a very special night in Punxsutawney.
They had a very special night, and that's when, Rita is the one that turns off the alarm clock, because that's the fake out, is we first hear the "I got you, babe," and it's just him in bed, but then her arm goes over, hits the alarm clock, and that's when we know that everything's all good.
Again, show don't tell.
Yep. So that's when, they jump out of bed, run downstairs, and, he tells Rita that he wants to live in Punxsutawney. He carries her out the front of the gate, which they couldn't open because it was frozen. Fun fact I'll tell you here in a second again.
Yeah. I mean, it checks out. It gets very cold.
But yeah, basically the movie ends that Phil has become a new person. He's seen the error of his ways, and also by doing that has escaped his hell, his own personal hell that he was trapped in. And what I love about this ending is there's no explanation. We don't.
No, and there shouldn't be.
No, absolutely
That's the best part. The curse was lifted when he learned a lesson.
Yeah.
And that lesson, I think, was to stop wasting your time.
Yeah. No, it absolutely is. And I mean, there's so much that we skipped over in regards to all the things that happen. There's so much you can't recap.
It's a classic. There's so much to it. But what I've always felt like it was a great example of a film.
It absolutely is. It's a perfect film. It has so much heart to it. It has so many moments that you'll laugh at, cry at. I just cannot recommend this movie enough. And that is 1993's Groundhog Day.
One of the finest films, and a great example of the, in my opinion, kind of the beginning of Harold Ramis really being forever a massive part of film history.
No, absolutely. And so would you like to guess? This is the weirdest budget I've come across, by the way.
Oh, is it in shekels?
No.
Oh, is it in rubles?
It's estimated with two amounts, and they're pretty wide from each other.
I'm listening.
14.6 to 30 million.
14.6 to 30. Could it be, like, do they attribute why they have two numbers?
Just says IMDb, just has that listed on it, and so does, Wikipedia, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, if Wikipedia says it, we know it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be it's probably not adjusted for inflation. They'd probably say that if it was.
Yeah.
That's quite a difference. I mean, I could believe both.
Mm-hmm.
I could see Harold Ramis. I mean, 14 million was not nothing back then, even though it was, a little on the low side for a movie with, it says 14.6 to 30 million.
Yeah.
It just depends on who you ask. That's ridiculous.
So it opens February 14th in 1993, so Valentine's Day. Takes in 12 million, 12.5, and then grosses worldwide 71 million. It was a hit.
Yeah, for that time period, a major hit.
So, some fun things about the film, and not so fun. There are exactly 38 days depicted in this film, either partially or in full.
Okay, that sounds about right. Because that's the cruel irony of this movie.
Yeah,
is it doesn't wear out its welcome, as it literally is. The point is to be repetitive. You've heard that meme, right? Where it's like, I want to hear they announce a sequel to Groundhog Day and then just release Groundhog
the same
Day.
One. Yeah. Well, speaking of which. Remember when our buddy Rob?
I was about to mention
God
that.
Damn,
our buddy
dude.
Rob did I can't remember if it was I think it was
24 hours, 12 showings in a row,
and he sat through the entire thing.
Yeah,
and I think you win a prize.
You won. I think it was like 15 movie passes. Like it was a big deal because
great.
You could not sleep. You had to stay awake the entire time. You had to interact because it was like every time Ned Ryerson was said, you had to say "bing." Yeah. So I got you, babe. You had to sing along with "I got you, babe." He told me about it, and I'm just like, dude, I couldn't do it. I remember he did that because we were all talking about it in the chat. He's like, I just want to do it for you guys. And I was like, dude, you didn't have to, but that's pretty cool.
I was like, if you don't do this, we're not friends anymore.
So the movie shot on location in Illinois for 2 weeks. Reshoots and additional scenes that were needed in the film were shot back at the Universal Studios in Los Angeles.
That makes sense, yeah.
The film was not filmed in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, but actually in Woodstock, Illinois, just 50 miles from Bill Murray's hometown of Wilmette, Illinois. There is a small plaque that reads, "Bill Murray stepped here," on the curb where Murray continually steps into a puddle. There is another plaque on the building wall corner that says Ned's Corner, where Phil Connors was continually accosted by Ned Ryerson. During the Ned scene, the sign for Woodstock Jewelers is clearly seen in the background.
That makes sense to film in Illinois too, because they have pretty intense winters, so you can have that snowy look to it. Because when you think holiday movies, like when you think a Christmas movie, you think snow, but in actuality, in most of the United States and most of the world, there's really not a ton of snow in December on average. In fact, I think I've talked about this before, but apparently I read this, and it could be total bullshit, but I read that Charles Dickens when he was growing up, it was just a very cold time period in London or in the part of England he grew up in. So there was always snow in December when he was growing up during his formative years. And that's why when he wrote about Christmas, there was tons of snow. It was his
interpretation.
Well, it was his nostalgia for the holiday.
Yeah.
And that became everybody's, to where we all want a white Christmas, even though we all know, I know. People love to be like, when I was a kid, 15 feet of snow. Listen, I had Christmases in New Hampshire where legitimately my dad would be like, they're saying 3 feet tomorrow. We better go get some milk. And I'd be like, 3 feet? And we're in New Hampshire. It was 3 feet.
Yeah.
But I like to look at data. I don't like to rely on my stupid memory that is stupid, except when it comes to apparently Dickens facts.
Dickens facts.
But which I have a lot of. But I remember there being many Christmases where we might have gotten a dusting of snow before Christmas, but maybe there was no snow on the ground. I remember even as a kid going, God, I hope we have snow on the ground at Christmas. So yeah, but my point is that Groundhog's Day is the beginning of February, a time when you really, you never know.
No.
You might get an assload of snow. Like here in the Midwest where we are, outside of Dayton, Ohio, the Paris of Ohio. We got a crazy snowstorm and then a crazy cold snap. And now they're saying it's going to be warm for a few weeks, but I would not be surprised if we had a couple big snows still.
Did we not have snow last year in April?
I don't think we had in April. We definitely had March. We get a lot of snow in March. More than you'd think. Lousy smarch weather.
Because, that sometimes the snow, I love being snowed inside, and sometimes I don't.
Oh, yeah? Does it just depend on if the twins are in the hallway?
Could be.
Is the problem with the snow for you, is it that when you see the snow falling, you like a part of you is like, it's beautiful like Christmas, and the other part of you is like,
red rum.
No, the other part is just like, I'm not going to take the snow off the hood of my car. I'm not. You should have never shared that publicly.
No, I shouldn't.
That's on the record forever.
And could be used against me.
Oh, it will.
So the interiors of Bill Murray's room at the bed and breakfast were filmed in an empty warehouse in Cary, Illinois. Unlike the scenes for the bed and breakfast, the scenes at the piano teacher's house were filmed inside the actual house in front room as it appears in the film.
Nice. I mean, that makes sense because the sequences there were not very long.
No.
So boring movie crap, especially when you're shooting on 35 millimeter. The more room you have, the better. It's one of the reasons a lot of mainstream movies now are shooting in legitimate locations, is that they don't need 12-foot high ceilings to mount the lights. They don't need a grid anymore. They'd like it, but they don't need it. I was just watching a piece about the making of A Complete Unknown, the Bob Dylan story. And that director of photography said this was the first film that he shot on this much, I'm not going to bore you with the technical details, but on a camera that's deeply, crazily more sensitive to light. So he was able to film scenes with just light coming in from the window that was actually the sun. And he said that he would use a combination of like a bounce off screen and things like putting a white pillow on the bed somewhat near the actor's face, so the white pillow would shine a little light at his face for Phil. He said it was the craziest thing ever. He was like, I was using maybe 2 lights in some of these sequences.
Damn.
But that's crazy because you look at his film career, which started with Strip to Kill 2 Live Girls, but you look at his career of filming Indiana Jones movies and filming all these incredible films, and he's like, it's just a whole new world now. You can really do just about anything you want. So anyway, my point is, all of that to say, since he wasn't like in long, drawn out dialogue scenes, I could see them being like, let's just shoot it here. We can put a couple lights up and it's not a big part of the movie. So I like that. I think that's cool.
In one scene, Connors throws himself from the bell tower of a high building. This building is actually an opera house in Woodstock, Illinois. Local legend has it that a ghost of a young girl haunts the building, as a girl once fell off the balcony section inside the opera house and died.
Man, now we're getting a merging of Groundhog Day and Happy Death Day right there.
The scene where Bill Murray gets out of the news van and talks to the state trooper was filmed on Amstutz. Is it Amstutz? Amstutz.
Amstutz, that sounds right.
Okay. Amstutz Expressway under Grand Avenue overpass just outside downtown Waukegan, Illinois. You can see the Waukegan Business District in some shots. The Amstutz Expressway was also used for the filming of the big chase scene in The Blues Brothers from 1980.
Oh, okay.
The first and only film directed by Harold Ramis to be PG rated by the MPAA after directing edgy R-rated comedies such as Caddyshack, Vacation. Ramis said he wanted to direct a movie with some slight edge to it, but as also one that would be overall suitable for a family audience. Thus, he insisted for the film any violence, sexual content, profanity would all be very mild to secure the PG rating.
Until he decided to go all in on a family film when he made The Ice Storm. Or not The Ice Storm, Ice Harvest. Sorry. 2 ice movies,
I know.
man. It's tough.
Danny Rubin said one of the moments that inspired the creation of the story came from after reading the novel Interview with the Vampire, which got him thinking about what it would be like to live forever.
That's a good point, because I love that when you dig deeper into vampire lore, that was one of the first places that the creatives went, was they were like, what about the misery of living forever?
Yeah. Harold Ramis originally wanted Tom Hanks for the lead role, but decided against it, saying Hanks was too nice. I couldn't see him in this.
No, he's way too likable. Like, even when he's trying to not be likable, he's hard not to like. Like, he plays the villain of the Elvis movie, basically.
Yeah.
I still kind of liked him. They had to put a lot of makeup on him to make him evil. And he held his cigar between his middle finger and his ring finger.
He did.
Which that drove me crazy. But then I was like, I bet that guy actually did that.
And I genuinely now am wondering if Hanks has ever really played like a bad guy. But like, I think honestly, one of the closest you can get to would be Elvis, but second to that might be him as the sleazy agent in That Thing You Do. If not that, possibly, because I can't remember if he's a good guy or not.
He was a killer in Road to Perdition.
That's right. Yeah, he's an assassin. That's right. Oh yeah, I love that movie. God,
and he played an evil CEO in The Circle.
Circle, which I haven't seen, but I've heard is good.
Now I'm really curious. Yeah,
Bill Paxton's in that, I think.
Ooh.
Harold Ramis considered Chevy Chase, Steve Martin, Robin Williams, Michael Keaton, and John Travolta for the role of Phil Connors, but he considered them as far too nice compared to Bill Murray. Keaton would later co-star with Andie MacDowell in Multiplicity, also directed by Ramis.
I like how Ramis is like, no, let's go with Bill. I know him really well. He's a piece of shit. Well, they didn't talk. Like, you're getting there. Okay, yeah.
The song that greets Bill Murray every morning, I've Got You Babe by Sonny and Cher, was in Danny Rubin's original script from the beginning. The song is known for its seemingly endless repetitive chorus, which mirrors Phil's predicament in the film.
Oh, that's a good point. I never thought about that.
Cher stated in an interview that fans would send her letters saying they loved the song she made for the movie Groundhog Day. Not realizing
it hadn't been a hit in like 20 years.
Yeah, not realizing that the song was actually recorded in 1965. She also stated
that old.
Yeah, she stated that the movie helped boost album sales for her due to the interest in the song.
I always forget you can't judge Cher by looks unless you're looking at the painting in her attic.
Yeah,
you know.
Right? Goddamn right. Harold Ramis incorporated elements of David Letterman and Pat Sajak in the opening scene where Phil does the forecast in the studio. Both were former weathermen who used to perform to launch larger media careers, much like Phil Connors' desires at the movie's start.
That's a really great, because we were even talking about Letterman a little bit earlier.
Yeah,
that little bit of a mean streak he had, which was when Letterman was coming up, was a thing that had launched several careers.
Yeah,
Ernie Anderson, who was Ghoulardi in Cleveland. One of the reasons he was so famous is because he had this sardonic attitude towards the show itself, which had not really been seen very much. He was doing a live show.
Yeah.
And he would come on and be like, well, tonight's movie, it's not good. It's not going to be a good time. I mean, honestly, I'd shut it off. And then he used to sign off sometimes by saying, like, when the camera would get close, he'd be like, just get out of here before they could see the phony beard. Like he just hated it, and people loved him for it. Well, especially in Cleveland.
Yeah.
So
that reminds me of when Bob just had that one broadcast where he just held that candle the entire time.
Oh, and looked at the camera?
Yep.
I actually know how he did that.
Oh.
He had a candle, but he also had a piece of incense burning right next to it. That way it had smoke.
That's smart.
Our buddy Bob, also known as A. Ghastly Ghoul.
Yes.
He got all kinds of complaints for his very offensive Ghastly movie show, which did all kinds of envelope pushing. Yep. A lot of envelope pushing stuff, incorporating anything from horror films to pornography into music videos. He called it video vaudeville. But one time he decided to do an episode where all he did for 35 minutes was stare at the camera, nothing else.
Yeah.
Just looking at the camera with a candle lighting him. And he was like, I bet I'll get complaints. And they did. People were like, he's trying to hypnotize us. He's trying to whatever. It's not like Bob was not suggesting he was satanic. So there you have it. But anyway, man.
While filming the kidnapping Phil scene, Bill Murray spontaneously improvised the line, "Don't drive angry, don't drive angry," to cover the fact that the groundhog which he was holding on his lap was agitated and trying to escape by climbing over the steering wheel. A moment later, the groundhog bit Murray's hand so badly he had to seek medical treatment. The line would decades later inspire the title for the Nicolas Cage action horror film, Drive Angry.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
According to director Harold Ramis, most of the time when he tried to explain a scene to Bill Murray, Murray would interrupt him and ask, "Just tell me, good Phil or bad Phil?"
Okay.
Smart.
I mean, he knew what he was doing.
Yeah. The scene where Phil picks up the alarm clock and slams it onto the floor didn't go as planned. Bill Murray slammed down the clock, but it barely broke, so the crew bashed it with a hammer to give it like the really smashed appearance.
Nice.
Harold Ramis directed the kids in the snowball fights to hit Bill Murray as hard as they could. Murray responded by throwing snowballs back as hard as he could.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That makes me happy.
All the clocks in the diner are stopped, mirroring Phil Connor's predicament.
Oh, that's nice.
I never
like
noticed that, yeah.
Yeah, I never noticed that either.
Bill Murray was offered a spit bucket for the diner scene where he gorges himself on pastries, but he declined. The angel food cake in particular caused him to feel sick soon afterwards.
I ate a half angel food cake by myself once in a moment of grief.
I remember that.
Well, you weren't there.
I wasn't there, but I heard the story.
Yeah. Well, that's like Paul Bunyan.
Literally, they asked you, "Is there anything that I can bring you, or anything I can do for you?"
A friend of mine had passed away, and I had decided to. This is terrible. To amuse myself, because I was so shattered emotionally, and this was 11 years ago or 12 years ago now. I decided that anybody who said, if there's anything I can do
for you,
I would ask them for something.
Yeah.
And a friend had said, if there's anything I can do, let me know. And I said, I need a 12-pack of Diet Coke and an angel food cake. And he was like, haha. And I was like, when can I expect it? Like, it would be cool if it was like later today or like right after you get off work.
Yeah. And
he was like, yeah, I get off at 5. I'll be out at 5:30. So he came to my house with an angel food cake and a pack of Diet Coke. And I proceeded to sit down with the angel food cake. I had friends over.
Yeah.
We were all just kind of, it was almost like sit and Shiva, except not, except it was just me and people watching me cry. But I sat down, opened the angel food cake by myself and started taking handfuls and eating it. And when I ate about half the angel food cake with my hands and was drinking Diet Coke to wash it down, I then set the cake down and said, if anybody wants any cake, please. Look, in that
moment,
it gave me the levity I desperately needed because I was grieving so hard. And when people would say, like, do you feel bad about that? I was like, look, how many times is my best friend going to die?
Yeah, that is fair.
How many times, David?
I don't.
I do know. But no, so yeah. That's my story of like, I'm a terrible person. But at least I take the snow off the hood of my car.
There you go. Fuck you. When Phil takes the elderly man to the hospital and talks to the nurse, a boy with a broken leg can be seen in the background. This is the same boy who falls out of the tree later in the film, only this time Phil catches him.
There's so many things like that in the movie where if you look in the background, you see things that are going to be expanded upon later. I love it.
Bill Murray and Harold Ramis had both been honorary grand marshals for the Groundhog Day celebrations in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I would do that too.
The Groundhog ceremony is depicted as occurring in the center of town. Gobbler's Knob, where the ceremony takes place in real life, is rural wooded area about 2 miles outside of Punxsutawney.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Stephen Tobolowsky, Ned the Head Ryerson, the insurance agent, was honorary grand marshal in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania on February 2nd of 2010. During his speech on stage, he performed the Whistling Belly Button act, to which he refers to in the film.
That's so good.
Filming the scene with Ned, Bill Murray noticed hundreds of spectators who were viewing the activities. He then went to the nearby bakery, ordered 500 Danishes, and paid for them himself. He and Tobolowsky then distributed them to the grateful onlookers.
Oh, that's really nice. I like that.
Danny Rubin and Harold Ramis wanted to add another Ned Ryerson scene at the last minute, so Tobolowsky wrote the scene where he rattles off numerous insurance policies. Tobolowsky based his character on his own insurance agent. After the movie's release, the agent called Tobolowsky to thank him for portraying agents so accurately, rather than making fun of them as most movies do.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah.
I like that.
The weather tended to change, and since they were filming all the time from January until spring, they decided to shoot each variation of an outdoor scene back-to-back on the same day, an example being all 5 versions of Ned Ryerson's encounter on the same day.
Damn.
So the punch, the groping.
Yeah. It makes sense.
Yeah, you know.
Just get it all out right then and there.
The idea of Phil Collins reading to Rita Hanson while she sleeps came from Bill Murray. His wife drank too much champagne on their wedding night and fell asleep early, so Murray read aloud to her until he too fell asleep.
Oh, that's romantic as shit, man. That's so cute.
Bill Murray was undergoing a divorce at the time of filming and was obsessing about the film. He would ring Harold Ramis constantly, often in early hours of the morning. Ramis eventually sent screenwriter Danny Rubin to sit with Murray and iron out all his anxieties, one of the reasons Murray stopped speaking to Ramis for several years.
Wow.
In the original version, the script by Danny Rubin, Phil Connors was already trapped inside Groundhog Day at the start of the story. We joined him on a typical day with the audience wondering how he knew everything that was going to happen. Harold Ramis promised not to change this aspect of the script, but ultimately decided to do so.
Huh.
Yeah.
I like it better that we establish it, although
Yeah.
it would be interesting
Just like start with the Jeopardy scene.
to start with him just like knowing all the answers
Yeah.
and then he wakes up and it's the same day.
Yeah.
That would be interesting. But luckily, a lot of storytellers have ran with that concept and done things like that.
Yeah. Early drafts, the script explained Phil Connor's weird experience. A disaffected ex-lover named Stephanie cast a spell on him to teach him a lesson to make sweet love to groundhogs all over the land while reading Charles Dickens while covered in shame. It was decided that leaving it out made more magical.
Yeah, I would have to agree.
Yeah.
The idea that it's a curse from an ex-girlfriend, I mean, at that point, it may as well be a gypsy,
Yeah.
too, you know?
Danny Rubin's first draft of the screenplay ended with Phil Connors waking on February 3rd to discover Rita Hansen was trapped in a time loop of her own.
I mean, I feel like that would probably overcomplicate things, but that would have been kind of cool.
Interesting, yeah. Danny Rubin and Harold Ramis both said they avoided exploring the truly dark side of Phil's time lapsing, in which he would commit psychopathic actions without consequences, the examples being homicide, rape, torture, etc.
Yeah, that would be a little hard to come back from.
Have you seen the meme or the comic that came out like several years ago that was a Groundhog Day deleted scene of him torturing Ned Ryerson? And then at the
No.
very end, he's arrested and he's like, "I'll see you tomorrow, Ned."
Oh my God.
Dude, it's dark. If I find it tonight, I'll send it to you.
Oh man, I love that. So
Among the
sad.
deleted scenes are examples of Phil becoming a trick shot pool genius while predicting the outcomes and point spreads of various sports events, cutting the heads off the ice sculptures, waving at Rita from the street and her pointedly closing the curtains, and becoming a perfect bowler. The scene where he discusses his repeating problem takes place in the bowling alley, presumably after he bowls in a perfect game and is desperately depressed by it.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's actually really cool.
They're on the Blu-ray.
Oh,
Mhm.
shit. Okay.
Originally, Phil Connors was supposed to hunt down the groundhog in his lair. However, this was changed since it seemed too much like Caddyshack.
I would agree, yeah.
When Phil is explaining to Rita his experiences, he says, "I have been stabbed, shot, poisoned, frozen, and so on. These were all methods used by assassins of Russian's mystic Grigory Rasputin, but with the exception of electrocution, were not seen or done to Phil. This could also as a reference to Ghostbusters 2 in 1989, in which similar methods are named for Vigo the Carpathian."
Okay. Yeah.
Rita Hansen's favorite drink, sweet vermouth. This was Harold Ramis' idea because it is his wife's favorite drink.
Oh, that's cute.
A scene was shot in which Phil destroys his room, slashing pillows, spray painting the walls, etc. He also shaves his head, then the camera pulls back from his face to show that his hair and the room were all back to normal the next morning. But Harold Ramis had trouble making the dissolving shot match, so the scene was changed to Phil breaking a pencil instead. Shortness, yeah, you know.
Yeah. It's brevity.
In the encounter between Phil Connors and the annoying insurance man, Ned Ryerson, Bill Murray was ad-libbing when he tells Ned, "I don't know where you're headed, but can you call in sick?" and causes Ned to run away.
I do love that part.
In the course of the film, Phil Connors endures Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's 5 stages of denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Harold Ramis, Danny Rubin actually took Ross's as a model, her 5 stages of death and dying, and used it as a template for Bill Murray's progress, which I picked up on a recent watch.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
In the final shot, Phil Connors carries Rita Hansen over the gate and then climbs over it. This is because the gate was actually frozen shut. Among the content of the special features, Harold Ramis states that the original idea was for Phil to live February 2nd for about 10,000 years. Later, he says that Phil probably lived the same day for about 10 years.
Yeah, that's what I remember reading. That
A decade.
That makes it a lot less funny.
Yeah.
It makes it a lot less funny.
And finally, the movie was selected in 2006 for preservation in the National Film Registry by the Library of Congress for being culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant.
I agree with that decision. For
Yeah.
once, I agree.
So, what are your final thoughts on 1993's Groundhog Day?
Come on. Groundhog Day is a classic.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a buy it. That
Yeah.
should be in your collection. If you don't like this movie, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
It's a great film. I mean, I get maybe some people might find him a little too harsh at the beginning, maybe, or really get hung up on like how awful he was toward women in the beginning. But like that's kind of the point of the movie is that he grows.
Yeah.
And he gets better.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's absolutely a buy it. There's no way that you can't not own this in your collection. I think what I really have loved about Groundhog's Day on further rewatches is you just get to a point with the movie where you know that everything's going to happen.
Yeah.
But you are still so enthused every time with it because it's just the performances in it, the overall storytelling method of how we do the edits and how we only see a certain amount of days, even though 10 years is what we're experiencing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just a magic to this movie.
Oh God, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And the irony, like I said earlier, of I could watch it a million times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Boy, howdy.
So we always like to end the show with a couple of recommendations. I have two this week. The first one being 2017's Happy Death Day. Currently available to rent on Amazon Prime. A college student must relive the day of her murder over and over again in a loop that will only end when she discovers the killer's identity. That movie just gets better and better.
One of my favorite moments, I need to show Rachel part 2. She loved part 1.
Yeah.
One of my favorite moments is, it's not much of a spoiler. At the end of the movie, they're sitting in a diner talking and he says, like Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
And she goes, what's Groundhog Day? He's like, you've never seen Groundhog Day? It's such a great moment.
Yeah. And then the other one I'm going to give is 2020's Palm Springs, currently available on Hulu. Niles and Sarah find themselves stuck in a time loop and living the same day over and over again. They are drawn to each other, but certain revelations threaten their budding romance. I really liked that one. I don't know what, because I was kind of not super excited for it because I was just like, oh, it's another Groundhog Day. Go figure, even though I love Happy Death Day. But no, I mean, Andy Samberg in that movie's really good.
I saw that at the drive-in during lockdown.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, and that was a really fun film.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. And the idea of going through a kind of Groundhog Day-ish thing, but with another person, is really interesting.
Yeah, no, it's super good. What's your recommendation, good sir?
Well, I'm going to recommend... I mean, this one I friggin' love so much, and it's so, in my opinion, so underrated. And it's 2014's Edge of Tomorrow, starring Tom Cruise. And I like you're acting like you didn't know because you're the one who was like, "What about Edge of Tomorrow?" I was like, "Fuck, I love that movie."
You're welcome.
But basically, IMDb says a man fighting in a war against aliens must relive the same day every time he dies until he can find a way to stop their power source with the help of an elite soldier. That's pretty close to accurate. I mean, he's actually playing like a paper pusher.
Yeah.
Who as punishment is forced to be a soldier to die, basically.
Yep.
And one of my favorite things is he has to learn to become a soldier. And he convinces this woman, another soldier, he convinces her that it's really happening so that she'll train him she basically gives him like, if you have this information, it'll be like a password that I'll believe you.
Yeah.
So as he's learning and stuff, he would like be training and he'd break his arm and she'd be like, that won't heal in time for you to keep training. She pulls a gun. He's like, wait, couldn't we just, and she just shoots him.
Yep.
So there's like all these times where she just murders him without a thought because then he'll wake up the next day. It's really fun. And like I said, it's extremely, extremely overrated or underrated, not overrated. So yeah, I couldn't recommend that one enough. No, I mean, it's such a great flick.
A lot of fun and also insanely violent for a PG-13 movie.
Yeah. No, it's super violent, but it's sci-fi violence.
Yeah. Great Bill Paxton performance too.
Yeah, I love that movie. So, but yeah, so that's my recommendation.
Awesome.
Highly, highly recommended.
Well, would you like to know what we're talking about next week on the show?
Well, before we do that,
okay.
Would you like to, first of all, see if we have any emails?
I would love to see if we have an email.
I don't believe we do, but I always check one more time when the show is recording, just in case. Nobody loves us. That's the end of that. But we are trying something new on the show.
We are.
Where occasionally, so when we would record the show, we've been recording the show for over a year now.
Yeah.
Every now and then you would just on your little laptop when we were done recording, you would pull up and see if you could find a Siskel and Ebert.
That is correct.
Talking about it. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool to listen to that on the show and talk about it?
Yeah.
So we're going to test it out, see if you guys like it. We've got Siskel and Ebert talking about Groundhog Day,
as you should,
and as you should. So let's give it a listen.
When we come back, Bill Murray is a weatherman trapped in a time warp in Groundhog Day.
It's just a jot to the right.
Waiting to worship a rat.
I hope you enjoyed the festivities.
Oh, yeah,
look at that picture quality. I'm so glad that it was.
Talk of a blizzard.
Well, we may catch a break, and that blizzard's going to blow right by.
I really
us.
hope
All
that
of
they
this
both
moisture
like it,
coming up out of
but
the
also
south.
at the same time, I hope one of them doesn't.
Well, you can never ever predict Groundhog Day.
We call snow.
Yeah, it's basically
Bill Murray
impossible.
is a mean and grouchy and nasty
Siskel and
weatherman
Ebert.
there, unhappy that he's been dispatched to Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, to cover Groundhog Day. He's the kind of self-centered, short-tempered egotist who makes life miserable for everyone.
Yeah.
Then something funny happens.
I wonder if he was staring at Siskel the entire time he was saying that.
And he runs into all the same people, and they say all the same things. Murray is the only one who realizes that time is repeating itself.
See the groundhog? Yeah. Think it'll be early spring? Didn't we do this yesterday?
This is one of the best scenes in the film as the weatherman tries to find sympathy from the locals for his dilemma.
What would you do if you were stuck in one place and every day was exactly the same and nothing that you did mattered? That about sums it up for me.
Murray's producer is played by Andie MacDowell, and like everyone else, she can't stand it. But since he can live the same day over and over and over again, he can ask people questions one day and know the answers the next. It's a great seduction technique.
Well, what should we drink to?
That almost sounded like Ebert was recommending it.
Yeah.
I always drink to
He
world
was like,
peace.
go for it. I wrote a Russ Meyer movie. Oh, the sound is just
So wonderful.
crackly good.
Crunchy goodness.
Oh,
Can I
yeah.
buy you a drink?
Let's jump ahead a little bit.
A good-hearted fable that sort of made me think of movies like
Oh, there
It's
he
a
is.
Wonderful
Great.
Life. Basically, this is a story that boils down to
This
a
is the
guy
best
living
version
one
I could
day at a
find.
Yeah, I
time,
believe it.
over and over until he finally gets it right. The film starts out as a comedy and ends up as the sort of fable that Frank Capra might have directed, and it
Oh,
really
yeah,
grew on
absolutely.
me.
Oh, it's very It's a Wonderful Life
I'm glad
coded.
that, in addition to the more spiritual side of the film, that also Bill Murray, it was perfectly designed for Bill Murray because he puts down everything all the time in his
Oh,
film.
my God,
And here
he
he's
liked
putting
it.
down himself until it doubles back on him. It's just a good script, the right actor with it, and Harold Ramis does a very nice job. I liked it too.
Wow.
There's a
Okay,
real
so
nice
they
sense of the
agreed.
town there. I guess it was shot in Woodstock, Illinois, but it looks like the town in It's a Wonderful Life or some of those Capra towns.
Yeah, it
all
does
the
very
white frame
Capra
fences
feel.
and the
Yeah,
insurance
I
man on
didn't
Main
even think
Street,
about
or
that, but
Yeah.
it's
the
totally
local
right. Yeah.
people, and you get a real feeling for the fact that their normality is kind of a cure for Murray's
Big city
citizenship.
Yeah.
Okay,
it
that's-
works
that's
out
actually
very
really
well.
Man,
point.
these guys are pretty good at reviews. They should really stick to that. They should do that more often.
Especially if they're going to talk about slasher films. I bet they love
Oh
slasher
yeah,
films.
yeah. I'm sure they're very kind to the slasher movie.
Especially that Silent Night, Deadly Night movie. I bet they
yeah.
loved that.
Yeah. Shame.
God damn.
So before we get out of here, I do want to mention if you like us checking in with Siskel and Ebert whenever possible, let us know if you dig that by emailing us at doyouevenmoviepod@gmail.com. You can also go to doyouevenmovie.com for all the information you could ever hope to need. If you're watching us on YouTube, please like the video, comment something, make sure you're subscribed. If you're listening on the podcast, subscribe.
Yeah.
Mother Hubbard.
Give us 5 stars.
We really could use the 5 stars.
We absolutely could.
So, geez, what have you been doing with your life? So, anyway, with that all being said,
Would you like to know what we're talking about next week?
that's what I was about to ask.
All right. So I think this is a first timer for you too. We are going with 2010's Valentine's Day by the great Gary Marshall.
Oh, yeah, I don't think I've seen
Yeah,
that.
this is a anthology or multi-story mixed in with like a
It's
bunch
kind of like an anthology.
yeah, anthology
kind of.
with multiple people in going through Valentine's Day in, I want to say, LA. Yes. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I love this movie.
Okay, well, we're going to be checking that out next week.
Yes.
So, but now we're going to head out. So remember, if you enjoyed the show, subscribe on your favorite podcasting app or on YouTube. We really do appreciate it. You can email us at doyouevenmoviepod@gmail.com. You can find us Instagram. All that stuff is in the show
All the
notes
socials.
or the description. Find us,
But not TikTok.
but not TikTok. We got banned from TikTok before it was cool. I still don't know. All we were posting was the most benign stuff. I think they just knew about you in the car hood in the winter.
Banned on 4 accounts: my cell phone number, my email, another email, and whatever the TikTok username I had too.
I didn't know you. Oh, they banned you because they figured out you were just coming back?
Probably.
Oh, but yeah, that makes sense. But regardless of that, Jesus, David. But we'll see you guys. Well, hopefully it'll be a next Tuesday.
Yeah.
And not the same Tuesday
Tuesday
again.
Yeah.
The irony that we're doing the show different from all the other shows for the first time on Groundhog's Day is not lost on me.
Yeah, there we go.
We're amazing.
We are.
We will see you guys
Next Tuesday.